Today on Locked On Rockies, outcoursed by a red-hot offense.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 29th day of May in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Rockies podcast on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies podcast on YouTube, where you can be part of the show, just like Zaire, who says, I just started watching the Rockies in the Philly series the other day. Based on what I've heard over the many years of living in Colorado, I'm getting a little spoiled for your first couple of Rockies games. I would say that's the case. But thank you so much for tuning in and joining the show. Cassidy Dean says, I don't know much about Caracetti, but last night's game against Cleveland told me all I need to know. Pitched 1 2/3 innings and gave up 2 separate 3-run blasts. This game was totally winnable because our bats were hot and stayed in it. You said it before the season got started, Paul. This is a bullpen that is going to blow it in close games. That's exactly what happened. We'll dive into that and a lot more, but thank you so much to our everydayers. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for liking the videos, leaving your comments, helping the show grow. It's easily the best way to help the show. Every time that you leave a like, every time you leave a comment, every time you check out a video, both audio or video, you are supporting the show. So shout outs to you. Shout outs to all of our everydayers out there. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. With all the parts you need at the price you want, it's easy to bring home that big win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. And we're going to talk about the game yesterday, of course. We'll talk about Ryan Feltner's struggles at home. We'll talk about the issue of walks. And we'll also talk about, again, the other issue with the Rockies here is strikeouts. That continues to be the biggest problem with this team, especially when you factor in just how frustrating it is to see this offense and see this team play better, but then you still look at the strikeout numbers and you're just flabbergasted. You're really just it's still exhausting. It's still exhausting as I'm trying to fight through the hiccups there. But why strikeouts are so infuriating? Why it's so annoying for that to happen, especially with the Rockies. We saw in the last two series, man, it's just so important to put the ball in play. It is just so important for you and runners in scoring position situations to be able to get the ball in play consistently. And that's why the Rockies have been able to hang in this series. I can't sit here and be completely disappointed in the Rockies offense that put up 7. Including the 2 guys they got home runs from yesterday. When you're looking for small things like that, I mean, as annoying as it was, and as frustrating as it is, the fact that the Rockies were winning that game, that it certainly is an annoying thing. That's a good Cleveland team at a hitter-friendly ballpark in a situation going up against the back half of the rotation and a weak bullpen. I can't sit here necessarily say I'm that surprised, given 2 3-run shots in back-to-back innings is a massive problem. And it goes to another thing we'll talk about too, the fundamental issues that are probably going to plague the Rockies throughout the season. Walks and strikeouts. Walks from the pitchers, strikeouts from the offense. I think that's a big reason why you saw the Rockies unable to make it back into this ball game. The second one, I believe it was the second home run in the 8th inning. I mean, that's what's going to happen if you walk back-to-back people and you have one of the Naylor brothers coming up. Especially, I think that one was the catcher. And as you know, this Cleveland team is able to hit the ball and has people that can hit the ball no matter where you throw it. And you throw it high and tight on him, he turns on one and he hits his second 3-run blast of the day. That's kind of how it goes sometimes, but it's amplified because of the walks. Instead of that could have been a 2-run or a 2-out solo shot, and at that point in the game, it's added on still. I believe it would have been it would have been 11-7 instead of 13-7 after the second blast. But it still stings less when you're not giving out the free passes, because it's just such a contrast. I don't know if contrast is the right word, but the two things that that just when I'm watching the game that boils my blood the most is walks from the pitching staff and strikeouts from the offense. Because I mean, I know that striking out is a big factor, a big part of the game nowadays, but not like this. The Rockies simply just they as a team they strike out far too much, and surprisingly enough, they're not the team that strikes out the most in the league. They are top 5. The Mariners at 567, the Athletics at 543, the Red Sox at 533, and then the Rockies at 519. But man, I mean those are all bad outs. You know what I mean? Those are all outs that in certain situations, runners in scoring position and things like that, they're just such momentum killers. Especially with the Rockies when they were cooking a little bit and able. What we talked about it previewing the episode. The Rockies offense did the things that did exactly what they needed to do in terms of getting to McKenzie's weaknesses. McKenzie gets 9 strikeouts. That's a huge problem. But they also get the 2 big home runs off of him and the walks. They were able to use the scouting. That was the book. We saw that one. You looked at McKenzie's line going into that game, and you said, That's how the Rockies are going to win this thing. That's how the Rockies are going to be successful. They got to be patient. They got to be able to hit the long ball, and they were successful in parts there. But McKenzie's still able to get 9 strikeouts in 5 innings. So think about that. That's a good portion of the outs gotten by McKenzie were via the strikeout. The Rockies end up striking out 14 times on the day. And it just continues a long-standing thing of game after game after game where it's double-digit strikeouts. It's double-digit strikeouts and then mixed in with, too many walks to the opposition. The Rockies walked 5 batters yesterday. And again, you can't give a team like Cleveland, you can't give the great teams the free opportunities because they will make you pay. Baseball's weird enough that you won't pay every single time. Baseball's weird enough that you'll be able to, get the strong showings from the bullpen like you did in game 1. But you're not going to keep that offense down. You're not going to keep you can't sit there and think that by allowing 5 walks that you're putting yourself in a position to win. Those are costly. Just as strikeouts are the worst type of out that you can have, in all honesty, walks are basically, worse, the worst possible defensive outcome as a pitcher, because my biggest issue with walks, especially with Rockies pitching, is it's just seems like hitting location is a little bit more difficult for the Rockies to do. I don't know if it's altitude. I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if it's the pitches they're using. I don't know what it is. But every time you hear and you watch some of these other these other teams, they talk about how efficient they are. They have these pitchers are at hitting their spots. And it's like, why is Philly being so successful? Well, they have people that can hit their spots. The Rockies just can't seem to hit their spots. And then when they miss, or when they're trying to adjust and when they're trying to get back into the zone, things are left in a hitter's friendly area and it just gets slammed. I mean, they were just out offensed yesterday too. I mean, and it's a team that when you mixed with free passes, free opportunities, they take advantage of them. I mean, and a big difference here too between the two teams. Rockies were 3-11 with runners in scoring position yesterday, and the Guardians were 6 for 12. That's a pretty big difference there. It's 4 home runs for the Guardians there from their core, and it was Josh Naylor, the first baseman, not Bo Naylor, the catcher, doing the damage yesterday. So, but it doesn't help when you got Rymack going down on 4 strikeouts. You got Elias Diaz going down on 3. Chris Bryant's got a couple of strikeouts. Tovar's still got a couple of strikeouts. Every single person in the lineup striking out outside of Brenton Doyle and Charlie Blackmon is a massive issue, especially when you reciprocate it on the other side and your side only gets 4 strikeouts. I mean, the teams tied in walks yesterday, both giving up 5 walks apiece there, but the Rockies struck out 10 more times than the Guardians. So it's not too surprising to see how that game ended up yesterday. When you're not sharp in those areas against the good teams, and Coors isn't always going to be your safe haven when teams have good offenses, those type of games are going to happen. It's a good, that's games like this, and the Rockies still can win this series. They've still shown an approach. I mean, this offense has been able to score runs. 7 runs in a lot of ball games wins you games. You can't be too certain at Coors, and you can't be too certain with this team. But the Rockies have scored 15 runs. They've only been outscored in this series by 19-15. So it's really just the one loss there yesterday, and they can come if the offense stays hot, comes alive, and finishes the job and gets another win here at home, then you'll be good to go. The problem is it's going to be a tall task because Logan Allen on the bump for Cleveland is a much different pitcher and much more successful. He's got 50 strikeouts and 57 innings pitched. So how much of a factor is that going to be? And Ty Block's going to have to be able to go going to have to be able to duel with him. That's why the Rockies getting that first win was so crucial in that bullpen game. So we'll see how it pays out. But at its core, when you strike out a lot more and you walk 5 and those type of things, you're not going to have a lot of chances to beat a team like the Guardians. And the Guardians made you pay. That's a good reminder of why those good teams will punish you for those mistakes. And they got to clean it up if they want to get the series win, which would be, it's possible. I mean, I'm not counting it out. The Rockies have shown that they can hang with this Guardians team right now. They're going to have to do the same, and they can't afford to get down early in this one. That's going to be my biggest concern. A big first, a couple of being down early again. I believe they were down. Yeah, they were down 2 in the first. Can't afford that in this one. Got to avoid that. All right. Let's keep the conversation going here. Let's continue to just break down what we liked, what we didn't like, and we'll talk a little bit about Ryan Feltner's issues at home, especially here coming up after we take a quick break. We got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We are indeed free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. You can also find the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, getting your daily sports coverage from all the Locked On hosts there, covering the biggest news in sports. Don't miss out on it there on YouTube or the Amazon Fire TV app. And don't miss out on all your Rockies action this year. All the play-by-play for your Colorado Rockies this year available on Sirius XM and the Sirius XM app. Just search Colorado Rockies and you'll be taken to where you need to go. Easy peasy. All right, let's take a look here. Ryan Feltner, man, going through it a bit. Not necessarily an elite year for him, but he's someone that he's showing some flashes, shown some greatness there. He unfortunately, I think the biggest mind breaker for Brian Feltner was his great start in Miami being wasted. But man, he struggled a bit at home. He has not really enjoyed pitching at Coors Field very much. He's got a couple of solid appearances here and there. Before this, he goes 4 1/3, giving up 6 earned, 2 home runs, 2 walks, and a strikeout in yesterday's game. Last time at Coors Field was against Texas. He goes 6 innings. He gives up 2 earned, walks 2, strikes out 4. And then the last time before that, the San Diego, so a couple of times there. But back to back, he's got another 4-inning pitching performance there. He's got that Tampa Bay pitching performance. So he kind of fluctuates a little bit so far. He's gets you into the 6th, gets you going a little bit deeper, and then after the road trip a little bit, it's tough. I wonder how much Feltner is struggling with the back and forth, the Coors Field hangover. I wonder how much that's playing a factor here. But he's been on the road and had some performances that hasn't gone well. San Francisco, for example, only going 4 innings, giving up the 5 earned in that one, gives up 5 earned in 5 2/3 against Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh. So it's kind of overall a season of frustrations, but it's interesting to see when he is at home. The earned runs and everything just seems to be up. He hasn't gotten a win there yet. The Rockies have won, but I don't believe he's gotten a win himself at home. I don't know if he actually has he does have 1 win. I'm sorry. I think that might be the Texas game. Yeah, the Texas game on Saturday, I believe, is his only win of the season. He does have the 1 win there. But I'm just curious for Feltner's sake, and this is why him being in the back end of the rotation is all right, is as he kind of navigates this stuff, is how much of that is messing with him, or is there something to see there? Because he's had 3 starts on the road this month and 2 starts at home, and on the road he's been able to go. He hasn't been able to go more than 6 innings once. He got the 5 2/3, and he's still that and that shelling at San Francisco. So it's not necessarily like the gaps are too big in terms of home versus away, but you can kind of zoom it out a little bit. Only the 4 innings against San Diego, and then again against the Tampa Bay, he does get to the 6 innings there with that strikeouts that can just kind of flash. I mean, that 10 strikeout game against Tampa Bay where it was working for him a little bit in his second start of the season. But the trends I'm seeing with Feltner, I'm getting a little concerned about, especially as he gets going at home more. I'd like to see it more like this Texas game, of course, where he's going a little deeper. When you're only able to go into the 4-inning range, especially at Coors Field, you're just setting yourself up for disaster. I mean, you're setting yourself up for too much reliance on this bullpen that has proven to be shaky at best. So for Feltner, the best adjustment we can see is him getting back to these 6-inning performances that we have. 2 out of his 5 starts, he's gotten 6 innings this month. 2 out of his 5 performances have also been 4 innings. He splits the difference with 1 with 5 2/3. And I'd like to see him get a little bit more comfortable at home. And I'd like to see him get a little more comfortable at hitting the zone and eliminating these walks. I mean, they're not a ton of walks, but now in 4 straight games, he's walked at least 2 batters. And now in, I believe 11 starts this season for Ryan Feltner, he's walked 2 batters in 9 out of those 11 games. When you're consistently walking people and your strikeout numbers aren't that high, you're just building that recipe for disaster. So what I'd really like to see from Ryan Feltner, I would love to see a really good, clean Coors Field start, something that we saw from him back in April, back in the beginning of May against Tampa Bay. The Rockies still end up losing that game, but that's 6 innings pitched, 1 earned, 10 strikeouts, and the 2 walks are still there, and only giving up the 2 hits. So those type of, that potential is there, but there's just the warning signs for issues at Coors Field with Ryan Feltner are kind of glaring. He's given up, at least 4 hits in his last 5 starts. He a couple of times it's been 8 hits. He's got the 7 hits mixed with those walks, mixed with the low strikeouts. He's getting ground balls pretty frequently, but that's the recipe for disaster. And unfortunately, the numbers are just going up. ERA is going up. The walks are going up. Strikeouts are down this month. I know the outlier there is bit for that Tampa Bay game, but he had an 8 strikeout game against Philly in April as well. So I mean, he has some of these 5+ strikeout games that can really help the team out. He was also in that the tough loss there against Oakland where he gets 6 strikeouts. So there's things there. There's potential there. But right now with Ryan Feltner, the mix is just not working, and the mix is just a really bad mix for Coors Field. We'll see how it pans out. I really don't think for me this year, I think just if Feltner can stay healthy and let him pitch the full season, just ride it out, see what happens, see what type of adjustments he makes, see how he handles a full year, see what type of stuff he can do, because there are these flashes and there are moments where Ryan Feltner is going to come up big for his team and he needs to be backed up by the offense. The problem is in his best starts this season, the Rockies have ended up losing. Outside of, the Texas start is solid, but man, the Tampa Bay one we keep talking about, the 10 strikeout game, that's a loss. The where he goes 8 innings against Miami, that's a loss. Yesterday's not yesterday's game, but the Oakland game goes 6 innings, strikes out 6, and it's a loss. So he needs to get backed up by his team a little bit more, absolutely. But if he can put a consistent, if he can be a good to decent back of the rotation guy like he's supposed to be, you're going to put yourself in some positions to steal some games, because he's going to be able to go out there and get some strikeouts. And if he can keep the walks under 2, get to that 5 strikeout range and hit 6 innings, Ryan Feltner is putting you in a position to win that ball game. If he's doing that, then that means he's not getting banged up enough. That means he's not getting dinged on free pass opportunities and getting punished for it like he was yesterday. And he'll be all right for a fifth arm. Again, because that fifth arm in the rotation. That's what we're looking at for Feltner. So I don't know. There's stuff to consider with I'm still fine with Feltner over Lambert. There's no real young guy that I think should be in that last spot anyway. So give Feltner this whole season to work on things. Give Feltner this the confidence in saying, hey, you're in our rotation, you're our guy. Now that's going to change come All-Star time, when there was a report that Patrick Lyons was tweeting out that German Marquez might be ready around right after the All-Star game, after the All-Star game. That's Feltner does have a little bit of a window where he's got to prove it. But I don't, because there's going to be an argument though. Dakota Hudson isn't going to be able to just sit there and breathe easy that he's going to be able to keep that spot as well. Or if the Rockies maybe make a move, with the trade deadline with German Marquez coming back, who knows what that could look like. That would be really interesting, actually, especially if German comes back and pitches well. That's going to be such an interesting thing to see. But I'm not out on Feltner. I'm not giving up on Feltner. I think that this is a season that he's going to go through stuff like this. And as much as I'm bummed about that, I'll talk about that. It was a bummer loss yesterday, and the bullpen did blow it, and it was a winnable game. But in terms of me being frustrated by the Rockies and frustrating losses, that one I can deal with a little bit more. And I'll talk about that coming up here in segment number 3. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. They got you covered not only all baseball season long, but they want to help you win big during the NBA and NHL playoffs. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Let's take a quick look here and see what's going on with them Colorado Rockies on FanDuel. Let's see here. If you want to take the spread for that's currently sitting at +1.5 for the Rockies, -111. Over under here is at set at 10.5. I'm taking the over all series long. We've seen that. We've learned that it is going to be an over type of series here between these two teams, these two offenses. See all the action for yourself at FanDuel.com and get that $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. FanDuel.com/locked on. to make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Locked On Rockies podcast, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, reminding you that you can check out Locked On Sports Today, which is 24/7, streaming on YouTube and the Amazon Fire TV app, giving you all sorts of daily sports coverage, and all your Rockies play-by-play action is available to you on SiriusXM and the SiriusXM app. You know, folks, in that one, as much as it was a bummer, as much as it was I was honestly more encouraged by the Rockies' ability to bounce back in that game than I was disappointed by the bullpen antics, because the Rockies fought back. The Rockies fought back from down, I believe, 3 multi-run leads in that game to tie it up in 3 different instances across that, getting good at-bats from key contributors and people that needed to contribute on the team, and navigating a tough day at the dish for Ryan McMahon. Because you know what? Cleveland is one of the best teams in baseball. They have one of the best offenses in baseball. They just won 9 straight. They're a very good team, and they're playing at Coors Field against the back end of the rotation. Like, if you didn't expect that type of result could happen, then you're being a little bit too much of a homer. I mean, I'm really impressed that the Rockies have put themselves in positions to win two series against 2 of the best teams in baseball, and they can do so again. The challenge will be tough. Logan Allen for the Guardians, 4.89 ERA with a WHIP of 1.46 in 57 innings pitched this season, 50 strikeouts to 18 walks, 11 home runs. So again, another moment here where if the Rockies can do some damage. I mean, getting walks and hitting the long ball is going to be crucial here. That's 11 home runs. You know, factor in that Ty Block is on here, and you know, say what you will about Ty Block and the frustrations before. He hasn't pitched in as many innings, but if you were to double all of his stats, double everything, he'd still have given up less home runs and walked less batters and in more innings pitched than Logan Allen. Here's the kicker, though: 50 strikeouts. How big of a factor is that going to be for this offense? If the Rockies offense is just going to sit there and go, you know, strikeout, you're not going to be able to get anything going, and you're not going to be able to stay, you're not going to be able to compete with this high octane offense, because Cleveland's coming out swinging in this one. Cleveland is going to be, they hit 4 home runs yesterday. They've been hitting the ball real well in the series. Jose Ramirez is one of the best players in baseball, and it's crazy that we don't talk about him enough. That's a guy I want to watch more of. I can't lie about that, man. That guy just is such a reminder of what I loved about myself when I was successful, where it was just, he oozes confidence in himself, where he knows the fundamentals, he knows the baseline stuff, but he's so confident in his abilities that if he sees a pitch that he thinks he can handle, he's going to go after it. And you can't get mad at him for it, because he's going to hit it off the top of the wall for a double. The point is, yesterday's loss was a bummer, and there's things to be disappointed by. The big issues with the Rockies continue, but I'm way more encouraged by the fight that we saw. I'm way more encouraged by the fact that it was back and forth. I'm way more encouraged that the Rockies have now played 5 straight games against 2 of the best teams in baseball, and they've been in a position to win every single one of those ball games. Yesterday's got out of hand. In reality, the first 3-run home run, you were kind of like, we're running out of time here. And then the second one comes, and you're like, well, we're running out of time here. But that's kind of, you play 162 games. You're not going to win them all. But it's still a sign that this team has more fight, more energy in it than initially thought. And it goes to show that this team is completely different than it was to start the season. They've played good baseball in the month of May. They've played good baseball against some of the best teams in baseball. And there are things to sit here and say that's impressive. I mean, that infield defense is still awesome to watch all the time, even when they're turning double plays down 6. It doesn't matter. It's still entertaining. I'm just glad that the Rockies have just looked less outmatched of late. That's what makes me feel better. That's what makes me, a loss is a loss, and it's bummer, and walks and bullpen issues, all frustrating. Absolutely. But at least it feels like the Rockies were in that game, and it's more frustrating because they missed out on a chance versus just looking like they were completely outmatched. And going into these series, ahead of the Phillies and this series, that's what I thought was going to happen. I thought the Rockies were going to be completely dominated in the next 3 series. And at least 2 out of 3, they've proven that's not the case. So, all right, we're wrapping up the show today. We're going to wrap up the series tomorrow and hopefully going to be previewing the series with Locked On Dodgers on Friday. So stay tuned for that. But folks, that's going to do it for your episode of Locked On Rockies for today. Thank you so much for making it your first listen of the day. Thank you for tuning in on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Be part of the show. Fire off your Rockies hot takes. Let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. For your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB. They got you covered for all your baseball news and notes. And for your Colorado sports, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Buffs, all free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.